Hello folks and welcome back to the paddock here at Silverstone at the end of qualifying day for the 2020 British Grand Prix. Will Buxton and Lawrence Barretto back with you to discuss the stories circulating around the paddock at the moment. And one of the biggest ones, Lawrence, and not necessarily for the right reasons though, is Alex Albon and his form.
It all started yesterday really, when up until the point in which he crashed at Stowe, he looked really strong.
He did.
That put him on the back foot. He lost a ton of track time this morning in FP3, went into qualifying without any momentum, and he could never really get it back, and he ended up getting booted out of qualifying in Q2, which for a Red Bull driver isn't really that strong.
Alex Albon misses out on Q3 in the Red Bull. That is a big disappointment for him and the team as well.
Is it all a bit much? I mean, he's only gone out in Q2. It's not like he was 20th and plumb last in qualifying.
So we spoke to him, the written media did, over Zoom after the session, and he doesn't think he's struggling. He pointed out that he almost won the race in Austria.
Well, quite.
He finished 4th in race 2, he finished 5th in race 3. He's only 11 points, I think, shy of Verstappen in the championship. So when we look at the pure stats, no, it's actually not a bad start to the season. I think the trouble is that for Red Bull, the expectation is very high. When you're next to Max Verstappen, the expectation is even higher. And I think that for Alex, that's a pressure that he's going to have to deal with. And there's been a few instances like that accident yesterday and this qualifying, which is going to continue to make people think, is Alex the right driver for Red Bull?
There's an element, isn't there, that we've been here before. We've seen it before. We saw it with Pierre. That it starts off well. Then the mistakes start to creep in, then the doubts start to come in, and then as the doubts build, the mistakes grow. As the mistakes grow, the doubts build, and it's that sort of self-fulfilling prophecy that ultimately sees them lose confidence and fall by the wayside. Are we there yet with Alex? I mean, obviously he was picked up halfway through last season, took him a bit of time to get his feet under the table, get himself, I think, comfortable at the team. Nearly on the podium in Brazil, nearly a race winner in Austria, but with a car that is difficult to drive, that even Max is struggling with. Hard for him to find, I think, any real level with the car.
I think that's the thing that we really need to take into account. It's the car. The car is just simply not as good as it was last year. They were slower here in qualifying than they were last year. Mercedes were 0.7 quicker. So that just shows what the difference is between where Red Bull are this year and last year. I think we probably do need to cut Alex a lot of slack. He's had a lot of high points. You've just mentioned many of them, Will. I think he's had more high points than Pierre Gasly ever did during his time at Red Bull. But I think that's the high expectations that we have of Alex when he's come back. He sets himself really high expectations. I think it's really important that he hasn't let his head drop yet, I think, and he's had a lot of knocks so far and he's keeping strong. He doesn't feel like he's really shown the best of what he can do yet, and I think that means while he's still got that confidence, I think that it's not anything for him to worry about just yet. And there's obviously Red Bull boss Christian Horner backing his driver.
Well, that's always dangerous, isn't it? It's like in football. Once you get the backing of the board, you might as well start packing your stuff up into a cardboard box because you know you're out. It's exactly what happened with Gasly. Last year, Christian said, we have no intention of replacing him. He has our full backing and we're going to back him all the way. And a month later, he was out. You know, that I don't want to be harsh, but that is usually a sign that things are going pear-shaped for them. We know that Red Bull don't give second chances. They are the least forgiving outfit in the entire sport. They don't give drivers either second chances or a lot of time to prove themselves. You know, he has had half a season. He's now 4th race into this year. Do we think that they're looking seriously at his form? Be it qualifying. I mean, look, we know in the race, he's a hell of a battler, hell of an overtaker. You know, we've seen it from his start in Formula 1, if you followed his career at all, you know, all the way through Junior Formula, all the way up to now, there's a reason that the likes of George Russell looked up to Alex when they were coming through karts. He was always the guy to beat. It's why he was part of the Red Bull program as a kid, before they dropped him. You know, he knows that it is a school of hard knocks there, but he knows how to race, he knows how to win. That deficit to Verstappen in qualifying, though, it's something that Gasly had, it's something that a lot of drivers have had to Max. And, you know, do we have to look at the fact that Max is a once-in-a-generational talent?
I think we do. Max is a special driver, and I think that the guy in the second car is always going to find it very difficult to live up to that expectation. I think with Alex, like you said, he's been very strong in the races. He really appreciates actually in qualifying that he's struggling, and they are trying to find some solutions. They brought in Simon Rennie.
Well, this is it. And you imagine they wouldn't have done that if they didn't have the faith that this guy is worth putting the investment and the time into to actually draw the most out of it.
Exactly, it was a big move. Simon wanted to be factory based, to bring him back to the track I think is huge for both parties. Alex has said that already, just after one day, that he feels like they're making progress already. I think that's a really good sign.
Have a couple of deep breaths, get focused, and you've got a clear track. Track is clear.
I think the good thing is that Alex knows that he's got the talent. He knows this is his second chance as well, and he doesn't want to let anyone down. And I feel like he's not letting his head drop. I think he's got the rest of the season, which is very compressed, to hopefully build some rhythm, and I think that will work in his favour. I also don't think that there's many drivers that can take his position. I think that really will help him, and hopefully that will ease some of the pressure, because I do think he needs some of that pressure taken off him just to let him shine.
There is, of course, an argument that Red Bull have on occasion rushed drivers through, not allowed them the time to develop, and then not given them that backing, that support. We look at Danny Kvyat, we look at Pierre Gasly, and we look how completely crushed they were by the experience of being rushed through the meat grinder that is the Red Bull Junior program, and then getting kicked back to Toro Rosso. Kvyat then out of the sport, only to pull him back in again. Gasly down to Toro Rosso / AlphaTauri, and you look at how someone like Gasly is now performing, having had that time, having had that experience, and Kvyat too, how different they are. And if they had been promoted at this stage of their career rather than when they had been, how differently things might have worked out for them. Do we honestly believe that Helmut Marko has changed his ways, that Red Bull have seen the light, that they are now going to give Albon full backing, full support that they maybe haven't given second drivers or other drivers in the past?
I think at the moment they're making the noises that they are going to do that publicly and privately. Also the very fact, like we've just said, the engineer, I think that's a really significant move. I feel like if they had a driver perhaps in AlphaTauri which they wanted to promote straight away, I think that perhaps it might be more pressure on Alex's shoulders, but they don't have that. So it might be that they'll give him till the end of the season. It might be that they have learned from their ways, and you know, we've got to remember Alex only had 12 races, was it, at what was then Toro Rosso before he got promoted. That's nothing in Formula One, and now he's faced with a car that even Max at times has struggled with. I think it will be very hard to pile on the pressure on Alex when he's not got the experience to be able to react to a car that isn't really playing ball.
In many ways, the car is actually a saving grace at the moment. If they had a race-winning car and Max was putting it top step of the podium every weekend and Alex wasn't getting out of Q2, then I think it would be a very different question. But that does lead me to the team. You know, Daniel left. We now understand it's because he saw the writing was on the wall. It was very much going to be a Max team. The focus, the attention was going to be on Max. And Daniel did a good job of taking that fight to Max, working as a team. Do we believe Alex is getting the same crack of the whip as Max in terms of equipment, in terms of, I mean, we heard him in the last race saying, guys, you've got to give me more power, you've got to give me, you know, more opportunities to be able to fight. Are they holding him back, or are they giving him everything that he needs to fight Max?
I think that they are giving him everything that he needs to fight. I think Red Bull want two drivers who can perform strongly. I think naturally, and you can't, almost subconsciously, you naturally move towards the driver that you feel can give you the best chance of winning, and that's no criticism of anyone. That happens up and down this grid. I think that the more experience that Alex builds, the more confidence he can have to ask for those things. I think the more that you'll find that he'll settle in much quicker, but things don't happen that quickly in Formula One. He's got to build up that experience. He needs time to be able to do that, to get the confidence. I remember when Charles Leclerc joined what was then Sauber, it took him several races before he said, this car isn't quite what I'd like. And I'm sure there's an element there with Alex, that he's gone to this big team next to Max, and he probably doesn't want to go around shouting the odds. So it's going to take him some time.
As you say, it takes time to build the confidence, but it takes next to no time for that confidence to unravel.
Yes.
And I fear, sort of, you know, looking at Alex when he came to talk to us today in the pen, and it's, you know, he sort of, you know, shuffles into place, and it's head down, and we know he kicks his own ass on things like this. You know, he's really hard on himself when he hasn't performed as he wants.
I think that he knows that being at Red Bull of all teams, that time is short, and if you can't deliver quickly, you're out in your ear. He's obviously experienced that himself before with this very team. But I think that the backing that he's receiving, at least in this short term, is hopefully going to give him enough breathing space to try and make the gains. I do think that he should be concerned, because every driver on this grid needs to be concerned if they're having a run of form where they're perhaps not delivering to the level of their teammate. But I think that he's also got the confidence and the talent to really step it up. And I do genuinely feel like he's done a better job than Pierre has done, and that's got to count for something if Red Bull are trying to compare in some way.
Yeah, but for a couple of degrees of steering lock, he could be a race winner this year, and we probably wouldn't be having this conversation at all. Thank you for tuning in, folks. From Lawrence, from me, for now, from Silverstone, that's your lot.